everybody, and welcome to What's the Buzz, a program of all the incredible happenings at Attleboro Council on Aging. My name is Kelly Lee. I have the pleasure of being the director at the COA, and with me today is Skip Pion from Attleboro Fire Department, one of our community partners. Hi, Skip.
Hi, Kelly.
How you doing today?
Good, good.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
We know that this is a time of year, I mean, it's freezing out today. That's where you get the scarf out, and we want to hear about winter safety, fire safety, hoarding, and maybe Knox boxes if we have a few extra minutes. Sure. But I think the viewers might be curious to know more about what your role is at the fire department. You've been there for how many years now?
Over 20.
Oh my gosh.
And I've been fortunate enough to be in fire prevention for the last 10. Mm-hmm. The fire department had a reorganization in 2014, and Chief LaChance had taken a look at the way that we were doing fire prevention, where it was a revolving door, and he sensed that that was not the best way to provide fire prevention to the city of Attleboro. So in conjunction with the reorg, they created the job that I'm in now as the inspector. Okay. So there are actually two of us back there, a district chief and myself. I become the continuity in the office, and the district chiefs kind of cycle through as they get promoted and get a small grasp of what's going on down there, so they can take it back to the trucks. But it seems to have worked thus far. I used to think that Attleboro was way behind, but as I get going to FPAM, Fire Prevention Association of Massachusetts, I find out that we are a step ahead of a lot of the agencies in the area.
That's really great to hear. I wasn't aware of that at all.
And we've adopted a policy of through education we get enforcement. Mm-hmm. So there are some in our field that look at the code and they enforce the letter of the code, mm-hmm. and they don't make a lot of friends, and they don't really succeed with compliance. We find if we can educate you to what the code is, it mm-hmm. makes sense to you, therefore you will comply for safety, and it's worked fairly well in the city. Out of our office, I should probably say, we do about 3,000 inspections. We either physically do them or we oversee those inspections throughout the city. They entail commercial inspections, quarterly inspections, 26Fs, sale and transfer of homes, oil tanks, boilers, propane, chemicals. We're across the board. Mm-hmm. The unfortunate part is there is no metric that says we're doing a good job. So when I say we're doing a good job, it's because I'm down there and I like to think that we are, but there are no metrics. I can't control how many fires we have or how many fires we don't have.
That makes sense.
But we do like to think that what we do makes a difference in the safety of the citizens.
Aren't there any reporting requirements up to the state and the state fire marshal, or no?
Unfortunately, those type of reports are, once you have an incident, the incidents are reported.
It triggers it.
So there's nothing to say that you did a good job today. And mm-hmm. But we definitely, we think that we are doing a good job, and I think the chief thinks we're doing a good job, mm-hmm. and we're going to continue to march.
Yeah, that's great, because we appreciate the fire department being a strong community partner with the Council on Aging. So what exactly does winter safety mean? Can you help us understand that more?
When you had asked to discuss that, I mm-hmm. thought about it, and I'd like to take it back just a notch. And I want to change the way that we phrase it. Okay. I don't want to call it winter safety. Okay. I think that we should be safe year-round with a few tweaks as the seasons change. Everybody, regardless of their age, should have a minimum of 7 days worth of non-perishable food at home, food and water. You should have medications that can last you a week. You should have some water. If you have pets, you have to have food for the pets. This should be like our normal little cache of safety that we keep in our homes. We don't know if it's mm-hmm. going to be a hurricane or a wind event or cold event. So I would prefer that we prepare for the year, and we just tweak that as time goes by. Now, as we get into the winter, we definitely have to do a few more things, and that will be our tweak plan. We have to have our, if we're using fossil fuels to heat, those mm-hmm. systems should all be checked prior to the start of the winter. Mm-hmm. Everybody should ensure working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. You're more likely to call us for carbon monoxide than you are for smoke or fire. So it's very important that those devices work. And we do get this a lot on the carbon monoxide side. People think, I don't need it. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have fossil fuels, you do. If mm-hmm. you have a fireplace, you do. If you have a mm-hmm. pellet stove, you do. If you have an attached garage to your home where you park a fossil fuel burning car, you mm-hmm. do. So carbon monoxide is very, very, very important. they save lives. And in Massachusetts, after 2008, it became mandatory to have carbon monoxide in the homes. And that was the result of a death in Plymouth of a family. They succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning in a winter storm where the snow came up over the vent, and one little girl died. And the family, they were able to get the other people's safety, but the one little girl died. And that's when Massachusetts took a serious look at carbon monoxide protection.
Are there different types? I thought we had, through one of the SAFE grants through the fire department, that we had purchased carbon monoxide detectors, and they were plug-in, so we didn't have to worry about the batteries.
There was.
What's your thought on that?
The Commonwealth allows for battery-operated,
Okay.
plug-in, or combination smoke and carbon devices. Although they're all used, I don't like to see the plug-ins because people plug them in, it's tracking for carbon monoxide, and then all of a sudden you need something else plugged into that outlet. And the device will be unplugged from the outlet, something else gets plugged in, and that carbon monoxide device never goes back into the outlet.
Oh.
So I would prefer a standalone battery on a wall or the ceiling. And there's you have to read the manufacturer's suggested install when you buy those. Carbon monoxide is heavier than oxygen, so therefore it should be lower, closer to the floor. The unfortunate part is we only find carbon monoxide as a superheated gas. Superheated gases are up high, so the carbon monoxide can really go from ceiling to floor. For your detection, where you place your detector.
Okay.
In new construction with hardwired and interconnected devices, you're always going to see them on the ceiling.
Okay.
So get a carbon monoxide if you don't have it. But that, back to our winter planning. Check your heating sources, make sure you have carbon monoxide, and we should be able to move forward and not have problems. People always wait till they have a problem before they get stuff serviced. So there's our safety tip. Take care of that beforehand.
That's good. That's good. So really, it sounds like it's more emergency planning overall when you refer to year-round as opposed to winter or...
Well, everything's going to overlap. Everything's going to overlap. So the difference between a hurricane and a nor'easter is the temperature. It's the same storm, just different temperature. One's going to give us heavy snow, one's going to give us heavy rain. So we should be able to plan adequately for both and have that all set and not have to worry about specializing in what we're storing and what we're not storing through the year.
That makes sense. The fire department, and I'm not sure how much we want to really talk about this, but I know that when we spoke recently, there was an older adult in the community in Attleboro, in our city, that needed assistance with installation of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. So what does that look like with the fire department's involvement in that?
As a rule of thumb, we will never say that we will not come help somebody put a smoke detector up. We just ask if you've got another means. You got a kid at home, teenager that can put the thing up. Have them put it up. If there's nobody at all can put it up, we are not going to say you live in an unsafe house. We will come down and we will install that smoke detector. We prefer that elderly, through your grants, you typically will have a battery operated one that we can get from you, and we can put it in the elderly's home. If you're not elderly and still need the assistance, you'll have to purchase the smoke detector, and then we'll come and we'll put it up. But that's another actual code change. The ones that you've been buying, if every home in Massachusetts built after 1975 is hardwired, interconnected in the smoke system. So therefore you can have a hardwired smoke and carbon mounted on the ceiling. Pre-75 are battery-operated devices. In Massachusetts in 2016, we went to the 10-year ion lithium non-rechargeable, non-tamper-proof smoke detectors. So there are, coming up after next year, we should really never see another smoke detector that is a strictly battery that you have to put a 9-volt or a AA in. They should be eliminated from the system, and they will be the 10-year sealed. Those are the ones that you bought, and if anybody needs to buy one for their home, that's pre-75. It's the 10-year sealed is what you want. There's no more changing the battery in October. Device goes up, stays for 10 years, end of 10 years, it makes a noise, you take it down, throw it away, and get a brand new one.
And I believe that we have a few left at the Council on Aging, and even if we didn't, if somebody did not have the means, going back to what Skip was saying, for installation or even purchasing, in our case, because we have means to, or funds to be able to purchase that, because safety comes first. So you can call the COA at 774-203-1906 if you're in need of smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. I have my Rhode Island accent. So we want to keep everybody safe in the city. So if we could switch gears a little bit and talk about hoarding. I know that we work very closely with yourself, the Department of Health, and our outreach team, because hoarding is real. Could you help people who may not be familiar with that to understand the definition of hoarding?
The unfortunate part is hoarding is a medical disability. So you and I can't say that person is a hoarder. It requires a doctor. But with that said, we both of us can look at a condition and say that is definitely hoarding-like behavior or
Good
condition. So the simplest definition of that is if you have a room in your home and it cannot be used for its intended purpose because of storage, you are hoarding in that room.
Let's dive into that a little bit more, because I might be on the borderline there.
Well, we look for on the fire side, and like you said, we work with the building department and the health department all the time when we tag team these things. But on my side of the football, we are only looking at the fire side.
Okay.
So we're looking to mitigate fire hazards in a hoarding condition. So we're talking about Class A combustibles that are stored in such a manner that if we had a fire, we would not be able to control it in that space in time. So we're looking for outlets. If I can't see the outlets, or I have extensive extension cords running through, that's an ignition source. So we balance the combustibles versus the ignition source. We look at windows and doors and egress. Will you be able to get out of the home in time? And it always comes back to, I don't think I've ever been to a hoarder yet that had up-to-date working active smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. I don't think we've ever seen that yet. They're concentrated on their collections. And it's not like you can say, this is how I want it cleaned, because they have a whole different mindset, and it's their stuff, not your stuff. So we have to be very cognizant of that and try to explain and get through to them the safety aspect of it.
Okay.
So there are times when they reach a level that we deem, in conjunction with the other agencies, that it is unsafe for someone to stay there. And in most of those cases, not only is it unsafe for that homeowner to stay in their home, it is unsafe for that home to be occupied because of the chance of fire spreading to the neighbors. So we're looking at a whole host of different things, not just the simple person that's storing newspapers and hasn't thrown a newspaper away in 30 years. There are a lot of things that we're looking at all at once for safety.
That makes sense. And is that why, I know in a recent situation, you had mentioned the utilities being shut off. Is that part of the fire concerns?
When it gets that bad, if we have to take someone out of their home, then 99% of the time we're going to shut the utilities down, because electricity, again, is the ignition source.
Okay.
So once we eliminate that, I don't have to worry about ignition source. If they have gas coming in, we'll eliminate the gas. We don't want the gas to catch fire if something else was to happen in there. And then the water, a lot of times we'll have to shut the water off, because now we've taken the person out of their home and there's no one there to monitor if there is a water leak or a water break. So the utilities get shut right down, just for safety.
That's incredible.
But we don't like to do that. We would much prefer to work with the homeowner to come into compliance in a safe standard. And we work with two different types of hoarders, to simplify it the biggest way: clean hoarders and dirty hoarders. And when we come in contact with what we'll deem to be a clean hoarder, no animal feces, the building is sound, it's not falling apart, there aren't holes in the walls and all that kind of craziness, we are more likely to work with them, because it's much easier. We can work with it strictly on the fire side. But when we come into the dirty hoarders, we have to get the health department, the building department, everybody else has to come in. Then we're only taking care of our fire side, health takes care of the health side, and building will take care of the building side. Can
you kind of touch on that? Is that a fair question with the building and health with that?
I can't say enough about either one of the agencies. When we call them, they always come right out, and I like to think that we do the same for them. But they always come out and they bring their own codes, and they enforce their codes.
Okay.
And if we're putting someone out of the house, on our side, we would much rather have the other two agencies on board with that. So it's not just us going at it alone. It's a consensus of inspectional services within the city. And that way we can bounce ideas off each other, and they're not hasty decisions. They're serious decisions. We understand we're upsetting someone's life. Everything they've worked for, collected their entire lives, and there's going to be ramifications medically. It's a crisis situation when you get put out of your house.
It truly is. And what types of situations? I know you have a very good working relationship with Bristol Aging and Wellness now, formerly known as Bristol Elder Services. So when you reach out to Protective Services, what kind of triggers that?
They always get back to us within 24 hours of notification when we have to report to them. They're pretty good on that. I think that they're like everybody else, though. They lack the resources to physically be able to step in and help in a timely manner. And that actually is one of the hardest parts when you have to put someone out of their home, is for like the first 72 hours, statistically, there is nothing that any agency can really do. So that's the saddest part of the whole thing. I wish they had more money, more funding, and they could come in and they could help people clean, organize, dispose of, but they don't seem to have the resources. They seem to be more of an agency that can guide you to these agencies, and you have to have the money in order to make it work. So that's a failing in the whole system. So we do our part, we report it, mandated reporters, we have to report stuff like that up the chain. But when they don't have the resources to come in,
how do we resolve it?
It falls right back on us at the local level, and there's not really much we can do other than safety of the buildings.
One of the things that seems to have worked in terms of a collaboration with hoarding is the Friends of the Larson Senior Center. They're kind of the nonprofit arm of the Council on Aging. And we've had situations where they have paid, because this is related to safety, and that's what the Friends do. They enable people to kind of remain in their own homes because of repairing things to meet safety needs. And hoarding is one of them. Dumpsters. They
do a great job trying to fill that gap. And the issue there, the problem with that is they can only help to an extent. So when they get a dumpster for someone and a 30-yard dumpster gets dropped off, it's awesome that it's there and we can start the process. But in most of these instances, it's not one dumpster that is required.
Exactly.
It's going to be multiple dumpsters that have to be used to clean the place up and get rid of all the debris. But they're a good start. They do great work. And I've been to places and they've helped fix doors, they've helped fix windows, they've helped try to help keep these people in the home, and they're a good partner. And
that's what we want to do. We want to keep older adults in their homes and not have to go into a higher level of care. Is there a particular situation, Skip, that comes to mind where you feel as though all the stars kind of have aligned and it's been a success story? Is that such a thing?
No. We have definitely had success stories. We definitely have. But what I found is they're short-lived, because these behaviors, if they're not treated, they resurface. So
makes sense.
In that type of psyche, we'll do a garden variety home. It gets emptied out. It's back to a living room you can use, a kitchen you can use, bedrooms you can use. It's we'll call it normal. And now that they see how much space they have, they're starting to think, what can I put in to fill the space? And they bring stuff back in. But that's not in every case. We definitely have had winning home runs, but they only work when there's family or friends that get involved. A typical person with hoarding tendencies that tries it on their own will never succeed. They have to have some type of safety network, and it has to be outside of what we can provide them.
Yeah, and it truly takes a village. I mean, you need those wraparound services to kind of
those are the people that definitely succeed when they have someone that can come back and say, hey, you're starting this again, I wish we could show pictures, because some of these places that we've gone into, the storage is up floor to ceiling, and there are just small little paths that you have to go sideways, and they just can't even comprehend that there's a problem here. And I never really looked at this until one of the last ones we started working with. There was so much storage in there, and I'm thinking to myself, if we had a fire in here, A, they would never make it out, and B,
that's scary.
If we started putting water in here, these Class A combustibles would grab that water, and water is 8 pounds per gallon. We'd pump all that water in there, and it would get grabbed by the Class A combustibles, and the weight load on that first floor would be too much, and we would probably collapse the floor.
Yikes.
So Lots of stuff we think about when we go in there.
That is something to think about. In terms of your role, like follow-up, so if you have a hoarding situation and you've been called, do you go back after X amount of time, and what happens at that point?
We'll issue orders that X, Y, and Z have to be done, and we're going to give a specific time frame when we're coming back to take a look. So that's the first litmus test. If this is someone that we have deemed that we're going to work with and they're staying in the home, when we come back, either that first 15 days later or that 30 days later, 45 days later, if they've made substantial positive moves forward, then we will continue to work with them. If we go back and it's a bad case and they're not working with us at all, then we have to go other routes. Whether it be through court or whether it be we're taking them out of the home or whatever it is. But a clean hoarder we're definitely willing to work with, and if they're willing to work with us, we will definitely work with them. And even on the dirty side, we got one that started before Christmas, and it's going to take a lot of work. But they're not in the home; they had to leave the home, but they are aggressively cleaning the home.
That's great.
So quite possibly they might be back in the next couple of months.
And maybe that involved just getting other family members involved that may not even be aware of the situation.
And that's exactly what this case was. The family is distant and they didn't know what was going on, and they're helping.
That's really hard.
But we'll see how far it goes, because it's always money.
Well,
it's always money.
We'll have to remain positive. What about condemning a home? And that must not be an easy thing or something that anybody wants to do.
No.
What does that look like?
That's when we come in with our partners, and that's the home is going to be somewhat condemned for living if we take you out of the home. So you could look at that like it's condemned, because we're only going to allow you back in the home if we take you out of there during daylight hours for cleaning purposes only. There are times, like I think of one down the other end of the city when I first started, and the home was so big that home actually was condemned on the building side where it had to be torn down.
Oh, wow.
So we run the extreme, and we just can't have. You can't spend all this money cutting your lawn and planting trees to keep your place nice and neat, and the house next door is falling into such disrepair, and there are vermin, bats, and rodents and all this, and some houses just cannot recover from that type of infestation.
That's true.
And they have to be torn down. But that we take that into consideration with all our partners. Everybody has a voice at the table, building and health.
Wow. That's a lot.
And we've actually been calling Council on Aging a little bit more when we find out that the homeowner is elderly, which is a big percentage of them, just to get the ball rolling if there are services that you guys can provide to them from the start.
Yeah, because we can definitely collaborate on that. And if somebody is concerned about a situation for a family member or a friend, they can feel free to call the Council on Aging, again, 774-203-1906, and speak with a member of the outreach team. And from there, we can engage Skip and other members of the city's team, depending upon the situation, and see how it could best be managed.
And we appreciate that, because that's kind of like a pre-screening. So your outreach workers will go in and they'll make their own observations, and sometimes their observations aren't the same as mine, and they'll talk to the people, and they might be able to help from that level before it comes up to our level, and we have to get involved and issue rigid orders.
That can be very true. That can be very true. We do have a little bit of time to kind of touch upon Knox boxes. We were fortunate to get another SAFE grant, the Council on Aging was, through the fire department, and Knox boxes. Skip had brought 2 different kinds into my office, and I didn't understand or appreciate, I guess, the difference between the two. So why are Knox boxes helpful and can be really important for older adults?
Well, the Knox box is a key safe program. Council on Aging, through the SAFE grant, has purchased a bunch, and when there is a needy elderly person that can still live at home but requires periodic rescue calls, it allows us to make entry into the home using our Knox box key and your Knox box on the home to take your door key out of our safe, open your door without doing damage to the home. And that's the best way to do something like this. The flip side is somebody could be hurt. They use their lifeline. They can't get to the
Right.
door. We can use our key to the Knox box, and then we can just go in, mitigate the situation without damage. So it's a very successful program. They're through the whole city. They're not just for elderly. We mandate Knox boxes wherever someone has a Type 2 system in the city, so that we have access to a fire panel in the building. We can
Like the Council on Aging.
Like the Council on Aging. We can just go right into that key box, take the front door keys out, and get in there. These Knox boxes are little safes, as you
Yeah.
alluded to. They are very, very heavy duty. Nobody is going to get in there with a screwdriver and a bobby pin. It takes our key. They are only keyed to the City of Attleboro Fire Department. We are the only one with the key to get in it. We are the only people that use that, and it's been very successful. Very successful.
That's great. That's great that we've got another layer of safety. And if somebody is in need of one of those or is questioning whether they would qualify for one, then please, again, call the Council on Aging.
But they are very expensive, so we don't just hand them out. It's a need-based.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
a need-based item, and I can't stress how tough these boxes are. They are super, super tough, and when they get mounted at your home, we've been buying the ones with the door hanger, so they just slide right over the top of the door. They don't have to get screwed into homes or any of that stuff.
And I'm glad you just mentioned that. So you had mentioned to me we needed to be concerned about the type that we were purchasing, because you can't just put it on a screen door.
Right. It's going to go on the hard door, so that we don't want anybody to be able to steal this box
Right.
and somehow break into the thing. We want it very secure, so that if you need it, you need help, the help can come in.
That's what it's all about. We want to keep older adults in the city of Attleboro safe and in the community. Well, Skip, I want to thank you for taking the time today to be on What's the Buzz. And
Thank you.
I forgot to bring the other cup, but we wanted to do like the old Frank Coletta clink, so we'll do that. Good improvisation. That's good. So hopefully we'll have you back sometime soon.
Sure. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much.